I was just thinking today about what I think, and again, this is my subjective opinion, but I think there's two words in the English language that are arguably the two most dangerous words out there. If only. And think about how many times you in your own life have used the words, if only. Now for me, if only rarely ever has a positive connotation. There's usually a negative connotation associated with if only. If only usually symbolizes regret. If only I had done that. If only I didn't say that. If only I had another shot. Who wants to live a life full of regret, especially as we get older, especially as we get wiser? This regret can soon start to turn into a prison of sorts. Unable to forgive ourselves, we're trapped. Unable to move beyond a certain situation, we feel chained, we feel bound. We're restricted. That leads to a low-quality life to some degree. We're unable to break free. To some degree, we're powerless. Nobody wants to be powerless. I'm powerless to change. I'm powerless to go back in time. I'm powerless to make amends for the feelings that I hurt when I said that. Powerless. So some examples could be somebody that says, if only I applied for that job, I'd be in a much better position right now. The if onlys. If only I had asked her out when I had the chance, perhaps she'd be married to me now as opposed to that guy. Or, if only I told my father-in-law I loved him one last time before he suffered that surprise fatal heart attack, I wouldn't be carrying this immense guilt around with me all day, every day. If only. Those two words are horrible. Those two words bind us. Those two words keep us from growing. But if only is usually associated with the past when we talk about that. If only I did that, if only I didn't do that. But I would also argue that if only can be really debilitating for us in our present state as well. And you look at the year that we just went through, 2020. I mean, again, you guys didn't sleep through it. You know just how terrible this year was with the sickness and the death and a very divisive election and racial tensions and economic upheaval and unemployment, underemployment, and the list goes on and on and on. There's a lot of if-onlys that can come out of the present situation that we find ourselves in as well. If only I were more talented, I could find a job a little bit more quicker. If only I could shut out that voice of doubt that's constantly in my head, I could live a higher quality life. If only my savings wasn't dwindling so fast, maybe life would be a little bit better. So if only is associated to me, it's associated with impossible. It's associated with hopeless. It's associated with powerless. And that is not a good place to be. But let's focus on the word impossible. It's impossible to go back in time. It's impossible to fix my situation. It's impossible to overcome these insurmountable odds. But you know what it tells us in the Bible, brothers and sisters? With God, all things are possible. And this is one of the things that really resonates with me. Now, we don't have to be God to make things possible. All we have to do is know that the Spirit of God dwells within us. And that's all we need to make the impossible possible. If you don't believe me, let's take a look at the good book here. The first passage is from Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, a short one. This is what it says. I am crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. Christ lives in me. Christ lives in you. And as long as the Spirit of Christ dwells within us, nothing in this world is possible. Impossible. How about this next one? 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16. Do you not know that you are a temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? There's no reason for us to be anxious. There's no reason for us to be hopeless. There's no reason for us to despair, because with God all things are possible, and it tells us in the good book that the Spirit of God dwells within us. And I think if you look back in the Bible, you look back in some of these stories, who does God use to do great things? He uses nobodies. Broken, busted, sinful men and women to do great things, to show that with God all things are possible. And in this vein, three words come to my mind: power, strength, and courage. Power, strength, and courage. Let's look at these quickly one by one. When you talk about power, the same power that allowed the dead to be brought to life dwells within us. You talk about strength. The same strength that allowed Samson to topple the temple, wiping out the Philistines in his final heroic act, that strength resides within us. Courage. The same courage that enabled Daniel to stand in the middle of the lion's den with death surrounding him on all sides, unflinching because he knew that he was going to be saved. That same courage resides within us. So to end, let's go back to us now. Now that we've connected these dots, now that we're talking through this, let's go back to us. I do believe that because of this, and as believers, because Christ dwells within us, we have the ability to solve the if-onlys. We have the ability to move beyond these regrets. We have the ability to move beyond the sense of hopelessness because that same power dwells within us. Power. If only I had the power to change my life. Strength. If only I had the strength to keep going. And some days, brothers and sisters, that is in rare supply. Courage. If only I had the courage to step out of my comfort zone and take that risk and start that business and address this thing about me that I feel is lacking. Power, strength, courage. Well, the good news is you do. You do have that power. You do have that strength. You do have that courage because the same power that lives in us is in us because Jesus lives in us.